So when you're coming in, something that when we were chatting with Molly O'Neill, she let us know that back in her editorial days, she would be editing specifically for the house's needs for their type of book. I want to make this a HarperCollins type of book, so we're going to do these types of edits, which can be anything from down to a house style of how you do your ellipses. If you put a space between the word and the ellipses, you're a monster, but I know some people do that. Two spaces after a period, why would you do that? But I know people do that. Beyond just the flat deviations from the Chicago Manual of Style, are there things in place specific to source books that you're editing for, or a particular editing visioning for the company?
Other than looking to publish, diverse books that feel unique and stand out and really on the verge of whatever's coming next, I really do have freedom to, bring forward and hopefully acquire projects of my choosing within picture book middle grade YA. But I think a source books book is something that feels, fresh, that feels like we're taking a risk, that we're trying something new. It's not the best place for, like the millionth YA fantasy that's like princess of rock and darkness or whatever. We all want something, I think, that feels really stand out and really special, and something that maybe is a risk that other publishers would be worried about taking.
Gotcha. So if I've got just a straightforward girl and her horse book that's set on the prairie, that maybe is not the one for you?
I specifically dislike a girl and her horse books, but maybe one of my colleagues does like horses. I don't know. So it's hard to say. But I would say based on that description, it doesn't really sound like a source books book to me.
I went through a period of the blog where I read like 10 or 20 different girl and her horse books. And I started to despair. I'm like, what am I doing with my life? to reach out, and I'll never write it, but I have this pet project in the back of my mind where it's a girl and her horse, but the twist is the horse is a serial killer.
That's different.
She still loves him, but they have to work together to curb his appetite for blood. It could be interesting.
So it's like My Little Pony meets Little Shop of Horrors. That's
a brilliant pitch. I bet you could sell the book to a room of editors for me when I get around to writing it.
Sure thing.
Let's go back to talk to that. You said that you're interested in acquiring a book, and you said, well, I've got this wonderful serial killer horse book, Little Shop of Horrors meets My Little Pony, and you've got to get, you said 5 people, is that including you? So there's 4 other people to get on board? Mm-hmm. So how does that go? How do you pitch to them and get everybody on the page if they agree that this serial killer horse book is the best?
Sharing with my colleagues is really informal. Usually I just, email the manuscript over to them and say, like, I'm hoping to take this into acquisitions. Would love to know what you think. And they'll take a look and say, like, yeah, this seems really cool. Or, this really reminds me of this other book that we recently bought, and it seems like they might compete too much. It's like that aspect is pretty informal prior to acquisitions.
Gotcha. Are there things you said it's informal, so there's no you get up and you're Don Draper in the room making the impassioned speech and presentation. That's how it happens in my mind.
Acquisitions is a little bit more like that, but I am seated. I don't have to stand.
Gotcha. And you know what? While we're talking about that, I assume there is a bit more of that with agents. Well, we talked a little bit about agents, but I was going to ask you, what are some effective sales techniques for agents to sell a manuscript to you? But it sounds like just getting a comparable, just like you just did with the Little Shop of Horrors meets My Little Pony, so a brief pitch. Is there anything more to it than that would make a pitch stand out to you?
No, I mean, comps are pretty important. As editors, we do have to use comparable titles in our acquisitions process, to run a P&L statement, to show our colleagues that there's a market for it. So comps are always really helpful. If you can't think of comps, that's usually not a good sign. There's probably a reason why there isn't something similar to this or comparable to this in the marketplace. And that's usually because there's not that much of a market for it.
Or the world just hasn't been ready for the brilliance of my serial killer horse book.
It's possible, but see, I came up with comps for that. There you go. My Little Pony, Little Shop of Horrors. Like, if you can't come up with anything, then like that's rough. No, but I don't mind, phone calls, emails, either way.
If I'm gonna look at picking a comp to pitch my book, am I better off going with a book that's genuinely closer to my book, or just something that's tangentially related but has a great sales record?
I mean, you definitely want it to be a real comp. Like, don't just, pull in like Harry Potter or something like that because it has amazing numbers. In fact, don't use Harry Potter.
That book has a child. My book has a child. What's the...
Yeah, what's the difference? Ideally, it would be something that's both successful and related to your book.